Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back. Yes, that's right. It's time for another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I see one viewer over on YouTube doesn't know what TPS means. TPS is temporary protected status, which is now something that no longer exists in the United States of America, because the final radical Democrat judge that was holding out with an administrative stay, despite the decisions of the Supreme Court of the United States of America, has now been forced to capitulate. And he's gone the same way as every other prior radical Democrat judge. So now, officially, TPS has been destroyed. It is over, and over 1 million people living here in the United States on temporary protected status are no longer on any status at all, and that means that they are officially now eligible for deportation. Many of them were already eligible for deportation, but it was just that final country that was standing in the way. Now we can say there is no such thing as TPS. What I need from you, everybody out there, is to please, if you haven't yet, hit that like button. You can help us out by sharing the show. All of that is awesome, very helpful. And I'm going to ask you to sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're going to get into it right about now. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much to Eleanor 2000 over there on Rumble as well, getting it started early. And it looks like maybe we are not live over on Getter, which is interesting because, hold on just a second. Yeah, it says that I'm live and it says that it's connected. Oh, no, there it goes. We are live. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure everything was good. Thank you, Eleanor, for the $50 rant. You, my friend, are a scholar and a gentle lady, just because you always bring us excellent news with the Zak positivity and a radiating heart. Thank you very much, Eleanor. I appreciate it. All right, you guys, as I said, we have a lot to get into today, and we are going to do that. But I do have a very special message from a sponsor of the program that we do this. Let me first get this pulled up, and then we will move into everything that we are going to talk about. All right. Thank you for hanging out with us today. And also thank you to today's sponsor, our friends over at Patriot Social. All right, you guys, this is something that I have told you about recently. I was happy to be able to mention it to you. I'm sure you have probably noticed how hard it is to get noticed online. Oftentimes when you post things, you feel like maybe you're just getting buried in the algorithm or something else. Aside from Rumble, aside from a couple of other free speech platforms, that's kind of how it always feels. But I have recently come across the sponsor of today's program. That is Patriot Social. And I'll be honest, I have looked at many different alternative platforms over the years, and most of them didn't really seem like they were worth the time. What's different about here is that they've put something together that is really polished, really well done, quite well put together, and it has a lot of really cool features. It's also totally free. It's built for people also who share the same values as you, pure, plain, and simple. And you've got everything that you would expect on another platform. A news feed, a community section where you can post and you connect. There is no algorithm. You just post and it goes out to everybody. There's also polls on issues that matter and all of the things that you would expect to see. And you also get it without having to fight the algorithm or people trying to put you in a box. And they've also got live broadcasts. Like I told you yesterday, we are very shortly going to be streaming on Patriot Social. So that'll be another way that you can follow us if you want to watch us there. And they will also give you the opportunity to follow anybody you want. There's also a reward system, which is totally innovative. I've never seen that before. You get points just from being active and doing the things that you would normally do. It's a pretty nice touch. And there's already a big community that's built up over there. And if you follow me, I will go ahead and follow you back. I'm on there right now. Like I said, it's completely free to join. It only takes about 30 seconds, and the link is in the description below. But I will also drop it here in the chat. It is thepatriotsocial.com/profile/ redpill78. Once again, that is thepatriotsocial.com/profile/redpill78. Thank you very much to them, and I look forward to seeing you guys over there. Okay, thank you for getting it started, and let's go ahead and talk about our first story. Now, this is a Florida-centric story. Usually, I either do the local stories first or I'll do the local stories last, but today I wanted to do this first because I feel it's a pretty important story. A man who is a kind of a powerhouse down here in Florida politics. His name is Michael Allen Caruso, and he was, until very recently, the Palm Beach County Clerk of the Circuit Court, and he was a comptroller, and he is a former state rep. Well, he has just been suspended by Governor Ron DeSantis after he was arrested early this morning for the alleged abuse of a child. The circumstances surrounding this abuse are disturbing, but they are not new. I will tell you all about that. But the charges in this instance for Michael Caruso are kidnapping, molestation, lewd and lascivious exhibition, luring and enticing of a child, and child abuse with mental injury. Now, it is important to mention that Michael Caruso, I'm pretty certain, is a Republican. I'm also pretty certain that Michael Caruso, as a state rep, supported the death penalty for child molesters. So that means, quite literally, that a policy that Michael Caruso pushed in the state legislature and helped to become law could now put him to death. That, my friends, is what you call irony. So he is actually up right now for re-election as a court clerk. Today was the election. How interesting that they decided to arrest him today. But he was charged, and then they came and arrested him. And like I said, this is disturbing, so I'm going to say a couple of things that people are not going to be happy about. But I think it's important to know just how depraved this man is. The other thing is that, from what I understand from reading the court documents, this is actually his grandchild. So he molested his own grandchild, and he even urinated in this child's mouth, which is how everything came to be known by the child's parents. But Palm Beach County Clerk and Comptroller Michael Caruso, he is a father of 7. He's a longtime Little League coach as well, so I would be surprised if there weren't other children out there who had been abused, was accused of repeatedly molesting this child who is not even 5 years old. Now, the allegations came 13 years after his first wife accused him of child abuse. Like I said, this is not the first time he has been credibly accused, but he was able to get away with it before because he was such a political powerhouse. And at the time, he denied the claims, and he blamed this claim made by her on the bitterness at the marriage coming to a close. They were married for 31 years. Now, this current investigation stemmed from this suspicious behavior that was discovered while Caruso was on a 7-day Royal Caribbean cruise in August of last year. This man disappeared for about an hour with this child. He said he was going to get the boy ice cream, and the boy's dad noted that when his son returned, he was in different clothes and that Caruso's hair was wet. Shockingly, the boy told his dad that Caruso made him have a shower with him and that the elderly man urinated in his mouth, and he said it was yucky, no doubt. So that sparked an investigation, and it found that the abuse began in November of 2024 for the first time when Caruso took the boy to a fishing pond and touched and tickled his privates. And then in another incident that same month, Caruso allegedly exposed himself to the boy and then played a game called Tickle Monster, which included Caruso groping the child's buttocks and crotch. Obviously, classic grooming behavior. Now, the boy's father confronted Caruso, who attempted to blame his evil ex-wife for fabricating allegations to turn the two against each other. And he said, if you tell anyone, Caruso said this, if you tell anyone, I will get you arrested. He said, I will just go away. You tell anyone, and I'm going to jail. Oh, I'm sorry. If you tell anyone, I will get arrested. He was not threatening the man. I read that incorrectly. But he also said he's only attracted to women. If that's the case, then why are you diddling little boys? Anyways, the boy has since obviously been to therapy, Specialists are telling his family that he exhibits responses consistent with trauma. And as such, Caruso has now been arrested. Now, his first wife and the mother of their 7 children, Beverly, had previously accused him, which he denied, according to a 2013 divorce proceeding, which was reviewed by the Miami Herald, and the allegations were also investigated by the Florida Department of Children and Families. Now, Caruso is a former Republican member of the House of Representatives, and he is now arrested. He was immediately suspended by Governor DeSantis, and he was trying to seek re-election. He is going to be on the ballot, obviously, because the election is today. The suspension bars him from performing any official duties. He cannot receive pay, and he cannot access any privileges of his public office. Now, the Palm Beach County Clerk's office said in a statement, "This morning, our office was notified that Clerk Mike Caruso was arrested on serious criminal charges. We are awaiting additional information from the governor's office on the next steps." While this is surprising news for our entire team, it does not change who we are at the clerk's office or our commitment to the community that we serve. Caruso was elected to the Florida House in 2018. He served until the end of last year, and then DeSantis appointed him as Palm Beach County Clerk of Courts and Comptroller. Now, as I have said on so many occasions, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I'm going to expose your ass if you are molesting kids. So it's been a wild run of being able to expose Democrats, and every now and then we have a Republican that pops up as well. Now, Trisha, thank you so much, Trisha, for another $50 rant. Hey, Zach, what is different about your wall? I realize you probably already talked about it, but I missed it. Much love to you and Lisa, and money for your honeymoon. Thank you. So I rearranged my office, and I put up new wood paneling. So it's the same style as before, but it's a slightly different color. It's teak instead of walnut. And the camera is in a different position. So there's quite a few things that are different. But I have basically put it back into the same general order that it was before. So the good news is Mike Caruso is probably going to go to jail for the rest of his life, and he might actually be put to death. Now, we can take a look at the governor's executive order, which actually details his power in the suspension of Mike Caruso. Also details the crimes that Mike Caruso is accused of committing. There was also an affidavit from the police where they obviously put together the information for the warrant. We've got the Circuit Court of the 9th Judicial Circuit in and for Orange County, Florida, which includes the charging documents for Mike Caruso, kidnapping, lewd and lascivious molestation, lewd or lascivious exhibition, luring or enticing of a child, child abuse with a mental injury. And it's many pages, so we're not going to go through it. But I just wanted to say, anybody who is trying to attack Governor DeSantis or any other Republicans in the state on this, you have no leg to stand on. Because in this instance, what happened was, as soon as this man was credibly accused, he was immediately charged and arrested. The governor removed him from his position. If this was a Democrat, they would keep this guy on the payroll, and then they would probably sit back and try to plead his innocence. And obviously, this is the exact opposite of what's happening here. So kudos to the governor and kudos to everybody who took this asshole down. All right. Now, I've been meaning to talk about this since last week. Well, over the weekend, I guess. I couldn't talk about it until yesterday, and then I didn't get a chance to talk about it yesterday. But actress Hayden Panettiere died over the weekend, and the death results from her preliminary autopsy was released yesterday. Now, there's no sign of trauma. It would appear that she died of some heart-related issue with a complication, including drugs. Narcan was found at the scene. Narcan is only administered when you have an opiate overdose, and cardiac arrest is the official cause of death. Now, a couple of interesting things here. Hayden Panettiere was a young girl who came into Hollywood, and she was almost immediately abused and molested and passed around to older men, even though she was under the age of 18. She was definitely betrayed by people that she trusted directly. That led to her developing a cocaine habit over the course of many years. She never could get herself off of drugs. She got her brother onto drugs, it would appear, And 2 years ago, he died, or maybe it was 3 years ago, 2023, basically. He died of a heart attack as well. Now, I saw a lot of people saying, oh, he's jabbed. Well, jabbing could have something to do with it. Jabbing could also have something to do with her heart attack as well. But I think it's just as likely that the massive amounts of cocaine that they were doing also probably had something to do with it. All of these things can add together to give us a bad situation. It doesn't have to be one or the other. But I saw people kind of attacking her and saying, oh, she knew what she was getting into. This was a child who was thrown to the wolves before she was old enough to drive a car on her own. So I have a lot of sympathy for Hayden Panettiere. A couple of strange things she did. She wrote a book recently where she told a story about how an older woman that she trusted, I believe when she was 18, she was brought onto a yacht for the first time. There's a thing in Hollywood where they take struggling actresses and they put them on yachts. It's called yachting. And they will basically have rich and powerful men on the yachts who have paid older women who are essentially their handlers to have sex with them. She was married to the brother of the mayor of Kiev, Ukraine. They have a child together. She had lost custody of her child because she could not get off the cocaine. She was in a years-long abusive relationship with a man who basically passed her around to his brother and other people in her family. He fed her cocaine habit. And this woman was just damaged. She was only 36 years old. And in this book that she wrote about this story that I was talking about, going onto this yacht and being passed off to an older British singer, she for years did not ever tell the name of that person. But the book itself identified the woman in that situation by a nom de plume, which is an assumed name. In the book, she says she was 18 years old and she was taken to this yacht in this dark Hollywood moment. She was passed off to this male singer, and she was just told that this is what she had to do if she wanted to continue working in Hollywood. She was on Heroes years ago. The other weird thing is that Heroes was just announced as like coming back to Netflix. And of course, there was talk about maybe doing a revival of the show. One of the older men on the show allegedly had also had sex with her when she was very young. And then another younger, older man allegedly also had sex with her, always allegedly. If you want to read about Hayden Panettiere, you can go to Crazy Days and Nights, and NT had unblinded all of the Hayden Panettiere posts. So in her memoir, she said that this woman, who she identifies as Stella McAmis, that's not her real name, told her to trust her while leading her downstairs to meet the famous British singer who was allegedly lounging naked in bed waiting for her. Hayden said the whole thing was terrifying. She recalled the shirtless singer in bed, propped up on pillows with his arms behind his head, and she could clearly see the outline of his body underneath the sheets. And Stella, this woman who was leading her to it, just kept talking about how big his unit was and how much fun she was going to have. Hayden said that she was terrified. She didn't know what to do. She climbed under the covers. She said, this woman that I trusted told me this is what I had to do. And so she did it. And it was just another experience that destroyed her mentally in a series of mentally destructive circumstances. Now, we can figure out who these people were because the British singer is allegedly a man by the name of James Blunt. He wrote a song called You're Beautiful. And in his memoir, he actually writes about the night he was on a yacht where this woman right here came with Hayden Panettiere. Her name is Diana Jenkins. I don't know who Diana Jenkins is, but I guess she's on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. This was at a party in 2009 in Cannes. The dates line up. The specific information lines up. The age of Hayden Panettiere lines up. And the person who posted this actually posted it to Reddit, and then they almost immediately deleted it. The boat was owned by Diana. And Diana is the woman that Hayden Panettiere identifies as Stella.
Make America great again.
Thank you very much. I'll read that in just a second. James Blunt admits that they were all on Diana's yacht. And then, of course, Diana came out in May and said that I did not do this. Hayden did not identify me as the person who pimped her out to James Blunt. It definitely wasn't me, and I don't know why people are saying it was me, even though all of those things that I mentioned all line up pretty specifically. There's no other yacht with a British singer that was owned by an older friend of Hayden Panettiere that anybody can put these people on together. So that book came out earlier this year, and now Hayden Panettiere is dead. So maybe she died of a vax-induced drug overdose, or maybe somebody wanted her silenced. I don't know for certain, but all I know is that this poor girl is dead, and she lived through hell for the last 20 years. So God rest her soul, and I hope that she can now enjoy some peace in the afterlife. Thank you so much to Denise. Zach, she was only 12 when she started on Guiding Light. Okay, I didn't know that she was on Guiding Light, but that makes sense. Not saying the abuse started then, but it would not surprise me if it was true. So sad, and I pray for her soul as at rest. Yes, really, I think that's all we can do. Okay, so let me say thank you very much to, oh, okay, that apparently is not it. Cirque from North Carolina just supported me. $100, bro. Thank you so much. He says, it's my 60th birthday today, so I decided to give you a gift. Keep up the good work. Cirque, thank you so much, brother. Happy birthday to you. It's my birthday on August 30th, so yay for August birthdays. I love it. All right. Now, do you guys remember when it was announced that the Nord Stream pipeline was actually blown up by a Ukrainian porn star? We talked about it once on this show, and it just seemed like, just crazy. I mean, they took this woman who used to be a porn star, and then she trained to become a diver, and then she became a special agent. Maybe she was always a special agent. I don't know. This is like some typical honeypot stuff. But we have another circumstance like that where a high-end Russian escort apparently planted a trash bomb that killed a Ukrainian submarine commander. Now, this Ukrainian submarine commander was stationed in the Black Sea, right there where Crimea is. Anyways, he was stationed at the Ukrainian naval base in Crimea, and when Russia annexed Crimea, he defected to Russia. He said, well, I'll just become Russian, and that's fine. A lot of people, everybody basically who lived in Crimea was like, well, we're all going to be Russians now because they voted on having Russia annex Crimea. So this is very similar to what we saw in Morocco when a woman was paid by the Ukrainian SBU agents to put a backpack bomb in a hotel trying to kill that Ukrainian oligarch. They didn't kill him. They basically almost blew up his kid and then blew his wife's legs off. Now, so the mainstream media is not talking about this story, but this is another act of brazen terrorism by Kiev, Ukraine, in another location. So we have now the Ukrainian oligarch in Monaco, and now a Russian general in Moscow. We've spoken about that. And now this submarine commander who had defected while in Crimea. And anyways, so a Ukrainian submarine commander who defected to Russia was killed when this high-end Russian escort right here, high-end Russian escort acting on Kiev's orders, blew him up with a bomb hidden inside a trash bin. She's 32 years old. She is ethnically Russian, citizen of Russia. Name is Margarita Root. She said she was following orders from Ukraine's intelligence network to kill Robert Shigiv, who is an officer in the Kremlin Black Sea Fleet, according to the Russian Federal Security Service, or the FSB. So Shigiv became a deserter of Ukraine when the army of Russia came in the 2014 annexing of Crimea. He was walking in Sevastopol at around 10 a.m. when a trash bin that was beside him exploded, and that's according to both Russia and Ukraine. An explosive device was reportedly placed inside the trash can and then detonated when the officer walked by last Thursday. It was so loud that apparently residents mistook it for a drone strike, very similar to the ones plaguing Russian forces in the area, and Russian Telegram channels linked it to security service reports. The suspected bomber was quickly apprehended, with Russian officials claiming that she confessed to the killing. Now, I don't know how she confessed to the killing. You know, if they just picked a woman up because they had seen her on camera at some point planting a bomb there, and then they beat it out of her or something like that, I would believe it. But, you know, I've heard people say that she just walked up to them and said, I planted the bomb. I think that's probably unlikely. But anyways, she was Mr. Shigeev was a notorious Ukrainian naval officer because of his defection. And the Ukrainian authorities had notified him of suspected high treason in July of 2022, you know, basically 8 years after he had defected. The regional governor did not initially identify the person who was attacked, but they definitely knew that it was the Ukrainians who had done it, because we've got this pattern of global terrorist activity that continues to take place on behalf of the Ukrainian government. So looks like I want to go to the Daily Mail article, because sometimes they have quite a bit more information than you generally see on just any other location. Okay, so Robert Shigeev was 49 years old, and he died at the spot as soon as the bomb went off. That makes sense. So they detained Root, the woman, for 2 months pending investigation. So yeah, it looks like they probably took her toenails to get her to admit that she's the one who planted the bomb. Sort of a femme fatale, if you will. Under FSB interrogation, she refused to express remorse for the attacks, taking the officer's life. And the present charge carries up to 20 years for a woman, although the eventual sentence could rise to 30 years if prosecutors bring additional charges and she's convicted of them. She was born in Yaroslavl, previously ran a travel agency, but it failed. Then she worked as a biologist, where she was involved in the production of vaginal suppositories with floral ingredients. She also appeared on escort websites. And last year on a train from Samar Adler, it is alleged she shouted, "Serves you right, Russians," in response to news of a drone attack on the railway station. Root had said she was ashamed to be Russian. She traveled frequently throughout the country. She traveled abroad to Egypt and Turkey, and she planned to flee abroad after the attack. But she had purchased a ticket from Sochi, and a female friend of the victim recorded an emotional video at the scene, and bemoaning that this war has led to terrible times. This is where the terrorist attack happened. I'm speechless because I personally knew this man and his family. I've been sick all day. I drove by this morning. I didn't know it was him. Then I found out. She branded Root a half woman who doesn't even repent for taking a man's life. And then she left a family without a father, children without a father. Shocking stuff. They are probably going to continue using these types of techniques to hitting people wherever they are. Yeah, very curious resume. Travel agent to biologist to hooker. Trisha says, so sad. You're Beautiful is such an awesome song. I'll never hear it the same way again. Yeah, I can't listen to it. I'll tell you what. All right, so let's move on to the next story. So we have another tale for you about cops acting poorly. In this one, it is 4 Georgia state troopers. Their names are Tyler Bird, Joseph Curley, Isaiah Francois, and Hunter Waters. They have now been fired after they reportedly committed felony fraud whilst they were on the job and using their state-issued police vehicles. Now, according to the initial investigation, they made a pretty penny, at least $100,000. What they would do is file fraudulent personal injury lawsuits after conducting pit maneuvers on fleeing vehicles, despite not actually being injured in any way. So, of course, they're cops. They haven't been arrested, but if somebody like us did this, they would probably send us to prison. And also, because they were cops, they were likely believed more than just a regular citizen would be. Let's take a listen.
Did anybody say to you when you took this job that it's not going to be stressful? No. You see the problem here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this is your job. You're not saying I broke my leg.
I don't even know how that has anything to do with the story itself, but glad they got caught at the very least. Sean Joe, thank you for the shades and the cookie. Ina, good to see you. She says, thank you. Sean Joe, thank you for a can and a cookie. Filter Dog, thank you for the can. No thanks, Joe. Thank you for the cookie. He says, tasty Taco Tuesday to you, Lisa and Zach, as I always appreciate your reporting on the daily. Thank you so much. God bless. Be safe. All you be safe as well. Sean Joe, thank you for another cookie. Appreciate you. Let me go ahead and spread out the Twitter stream so that I can try to get the chat pulled up. I don't know if anybody's going to be chatting over there, but there are a couple of people watching. All right. Now, I also have a little bit more of an update for you on the former Minnesota county assistant attorney who was just arrested for running a sex trafficking ring while she was essentially a county prosecutor. She was the assistant Anoka County attorney, and she was running a sex trafficking operation in Hennepin County, which is where she's being prosecuted. Now, it's alleged also, and look at this, she was not only running a prostitution ring, human sex trafficking ring, she also ran an assisted living center, and she ran an autism center. Now, those two alone were responsible for stealing over $4.6 million from taxpayers. Absolutely insane. So the allegation is that she secured and provided locations for the commercial sex transactions. She also allegedly assisted in maintaining shell companies. She would then use those shell companies to hide and funnel the profits. And of course, she was also getting paid the salary of an assistant county attorney. There were also guns that were used during the course of these crimes to essentially threaten the victims and keep them in line. And the documents also say that Sampson was alleged to have been part of operating this assisted living and autism site. She basically ran the back end of the business and would then use these shell companies to launder the money from the sex trafficking. There were businesses linked to the sex traffickers that are also include Andrea Sampson, Frank Reeves, and Victoria Coleman Nash, and they billed Medicaid for $2.5 million in autism services, housing stabilization, assisted living. All of it basically is said to be fraudulent. There was one specific assisted living facility that the former commercial sex house was owned by Sampson that was billing more than $500,000. So supposed to have people living there who needed help. Instead, they were just running girls for money out of it. And Sampson owned it. Sampson also was linked to another assisted living home, again, that billed over $1.2 million between 2023 and 2026. And one report on her activity notes that companies had submitted that total billing of $4.65 million during that period. So this woman is in a whole heap of shit. And Mary Moriarty has no, I'm sorry. No, it's Mary Moriarty. I'm sorry. I don't remember if that's her name or not. She's one of the Minnesota Dykes. Let's go ahead and listen.
Wants to be involved in a sex trafficking ring. It is something that happens to you. The 13 victims and others are victims and suffered great harm.
A former assistant Anoka County attorney is accused of helping run a sex trafficking organization in Hennepin County. Andrea Sampson was arrested Friday after a BCA investigation that began in 2021.
She is alleged to have secured and provided locations for commercial sex transactions. She also allegedly assisted in maintaining shell companies to hide and funnel profits. All this while working as an assistant county attorney. Court documents go on to say that guns were wielded to, quote, keep the victims in line. Those documents also say that Sampson was alleged to have been part of operating an assisted living and or autism sites. Moriarty would not elaborate on that today.
It is Moriarty. Yes, it is Moriarty. All right. So I'm glad to see that she got busted. I'm glad to see that they are actually prosecuting her. It's basically too big of a crime to simply let go. It's one thing when you have some Somalis doing it. It's another thing when you have somebody who's actually on your payroll at the county attorney doing it. All right. Now, this is some international news, but it is election related. So I thought I would bring it up early in the show because we are going to talk about a couple of things related to elections. The French government has just found hard evidence of election interference in France. They've also found it in Africa. and even in elections in Scotland. Now, if you had to guess, what nation would you pick as being the nation that would want to fix elections in France, Africa, and Scotland? If you said Russia, you'd be wrong. It's actually an Israeli country, an Israeli company, and the company is called Blackcore. Let's take a listen to this story. This is a 6-minute breakdown, but we're not going to listen to the whole thing.
Here in Europe, there's quite an obsession with so-called Russian interference in elections. No evidence, alleged interference, no evidence is ever given for this alleged interference. The French government established an authority, a group, to monitor foreign influence and operations on social media, etc., to manipulate opinion around the world when it comes to elections. Now, what they found was interference by an Israeli company, a private Israeli company. Now, this French group, which was established to track down this type of influence, is called Vigilum. Now, their boss has made it very clear what they found and named the company Blackcore.
Vigilum's investigations have made it possible to geographically locate the foreign operator behind this malicious activity, a suspected Israeli company known as Blackcore. Its techniques were not limited to municipal elections in France. They also appear to have been used to conduct foreign digital interference operations in various countries and regions.
Now, you also may or may not be surprised to learn that this news is not recent. This was actually reported on 2 months ago in the Jerusalem Post, in a number of other international news outlets, even Reuters. But it surprisingly didn't get much play here in the United States. So this Israeli firm, Blackcore, is suspected of meddling also in the New York City elections, you guys. It's not just France, not just Scotland, not just Africa. It's also here in the United States of America. But they didn't want to talk about it. They only want to talk about Russia. So Blackcore is suspected of interfering in France's local elections in March. They're also suspected of meddling in New York City elections, Scotland elections, Angola, and Togo. So last month, French authorities, well, this would have been May of this year, French authorities announced that they suspected Blackcore was behind this online smear campaign targeting 3 candidates from the hard-left French Unbowed party ahead of a municipal election in March. The modus operandi was not limited to municipal elections in France, the investigator said. It also appears to have been used to carry out foreign digital interference operations in other countries or regions, those I already mentioned, in 2025. So French authorities opened a probe into the campaign after they came under mounting pressure to provide answers over incidents that raised awkward questions about the security of French elections. Now, suspected crimes included foreign espionage, election fraud carried out with false news or fraudulent maneuvers, and online advocacy of terrorism. So the operation under investigation targeted the mayoral candidate for Marseille, Sébastien Delogu, Toulouse contender Francois Picamal, and their Roubaix counterpart, David Gerard, according to French authorities. Now, their party is regularly accused of anti-Semitism by some Jewish community leaders and political rivals, claims they deny, while many business figures fret about their high tax and spend policies. So let's see what Reuters had to say about it. That is from the Jerusalem Post. I'm expecting it to be a little bit toned down from the Jerusalem Post, but I can't say that I think Reuters is going to hit it much harder. So, Israeli firm Blackcore, suspected of election interference. They put out a press release. They did a press conference. They talk about the exact same points that I just mentioned. Our investigations did not make it possible to identify the sponsor or sponsors, if indeed they exist, behind this foreign digital interference. Well, they've already identified the company. Why don't they just force Blackcore to tell them who paid them to run this election interference? I do not doubt for a single instant that if a French private group from French soil, moreover, had engaged in foreign digital interference in Israel, I can't do a French accent, they would have done the same to its ambassador on site. Israel's embassy in Paris confirmed that France had reached out, saying it was waiting to receive details from the French probe to conduct their own. Israel has had no course, no intention to interfere in French political process, be it at the national or municipal level. New York is what I'm really interested in. So, they did not explicitly mention who was targeted in last year's New York election, which, of course, was won by Zoran Mamdani. But his victory thrilled many younger Jewish progressives, but it spooked more traditional pro-Israel New Yorkers about his outspoken support of Palestine. Mamdani's team did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Neither did New York City or New York State. Of course, why would they? New York State Police and the U.S. Cyber Defense Agency, CISA, also did not immediately return emails, and the FBI declined to comment. I would like to hear a comment from all of French, Chinese. Yeah, it was a bad accent. In a subsequent report, it said that Black Core was detected targeting John Swinney, the First Minister of Scotland. Swinney has described the situation in Gaza as a man-made humanitarian catastrophe. That is exactly what it is. Okay, so they go into a little bit more detail talking about the New York stuff, but that's about it. Anyways, I wonder if we're ever going to get a follow-up, y'all. That's something that I would certainly love to see. All right. Now, I also would like to let you know about my good friend Marley Hornick, who currently has a lawsuit that she has brought against a number of important people in the state of New York. That includes Tish James and a number of others. Now, she wants, she is suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections in court. The federal judge, Marley says, wants them stripped of their titles and to answer for going on the warpath against citizens. Now, Marley and her group have asked the question, why are there 435,000 votes counted with no voter? That's in the New York City elections. Why are there 2 million votes for unqualified voters? Why are there algorithms embedded into the voter roll database tagging invalid records? And why are voters' birth dates changing? So Marley's lawsuit continues, and obviously I am anxious to see exactly where this goes. So that page does not work, Marley. Here is the 2025 Mamdani fraud report, which is what this lawsuit is based on. So, the specifics that I just mentioned, she asks the question, did the NYC and New York State Board of Elections qualify the NYC voters in New York's 2025 general election according to state law? Because using the official records of the New York City and New York State Board of Elections, we isolated the list of the voters who voted in 2025. From this list, based on our previous pilot studies, we isolated the cohort of all voters who registered to vote between 2021 and 2025. These registrants contributed 934,000 votes to the election out of 2.2 million, which is nearly half. From this cohort, we randomly selected 10,000 voters. These were the individuals we examined for voter qualification compliance. The study gives a 99% confidence interval in the extrapolated results with a 1.3% margin of error, which means that our study is at least 97.7% accurate. Now, you can see here, out of 10,000, 733 of the voters did not exist. That is 7%. Extrapolate that for the 934,000, and it would be 68,441 voters who don't exist. And then you've got the people in a specific range of social number, 773 to 999. That's 633, or an extrapolation of 59,000. 980 who are not in New York City, and then 134 that don't have a social security number. And then you've got another 3,000 out of the 10,000 that have multiple active addresses, which is approximately an extrapolation of 289,540 votes. Now, based upon the margin of victory, it would appear that Marley's team has identified enough votes that should have invalidated Zoran Mamdani's election win last year. So this lawsuit moving forward is going to be very, very important. And I wanted to say congratulations to Marley for finally getting standing in a lawsuit where she clearly is doing the right thing. All right. Now, I'm sure you'll remember, well, you see it every day. Communism, socialism is really making a big push in the Democrat Party. And the last time we checked on the overall acceptance of communism among the left, it was approximately 30%. Well, that number has almost doubled. It is actually much, much worse now. This is truly a shocking statistic, but according to a new poll from CBS, 58% of Democrats now approve of socialism. This is obviously a lot of people, even though Democrats are not as numerous as Republicans, but the highest number comes from Democrats who have college degrees, which likely means they were radicalized on college campuses. All the more reason to just shut them all down. Now, apparently, colleges and universities no longer teach accurate history, because if they did, no one would approve of socialism. But you can look at it yourself. It's failed in every single country where they've ever tried it. And every single time they implement it, it leaves a trail of dead bodies. Now, the poll did find that capitalism is still more popular with Americans overall. So CBS News did a poll on whether Democrats split over socialism and how Americans see parties in today's economy. Now, most Americans believe a free market system is a good thing. Okay, so Indian toes, I've made the same point myself on so many occasions. But what we're looking at here is a poll by a left-wing media outlet polling only Democrats and asking only those Democrats what their thoughts are on socialism. It's not like they're taking a bad sample, asking Democrats about whether or not they support President Trump's agenda or something like that. If you understand statistics, then you understand how this data can be manipulated, but you also understand how it can be an accurate representation of what people think. And this is the type of poll that gives you an accurate representation of what these people think, because they're not asking people on the right. So they did this poll among Democrat voters, and they learned that a fairly high percentage of them have a favorable opinion of socialism. It is far more popular among Democrats with college degrees than those without. And the likely biggest gap is between the rich and the middle class. Of course, mostly the rich Democrats are not going to approve of socialism. So basically, 6 in 10 Democrats have a positive view of socialism. Many Democrats are now voting Republican, but there are still a lot of Democrats who are not voting Republican. So the people who are Democrats now voting Republican, they're going to have to become Republicans to vote as Republicans. So anyways, a Democrat voting Republican is not going to have a positive view of socialism. So again, my point stands. But just let's do another point of data here. One of the largest proponents of socialism in the United States are the members of the Democratic Socialists of America. Here, the DSA steering committee member, a man by the name of Cliff Connolly, shares exactly how he feels about things like America and the Constitution. So this is a video that we're going to play from the Democratic Socialists of America's member of the steering committee, Cliff Connolly, and he admits what everybody already knows about the far left in this organization. They hate the principles upon which the United States was founded. They hate our founding documents. And this was from a podcast episode called The Revolution in Democracy, Marxist Unity Group's Vision for the DSA. It was actually released last July. And in this episode, he shares his hatred for the United States Constitution. And he describes the Constitution as an obstacle that the organization will have to get over in order to have a revolution, which is exactly what they want to do. So these people on this panel, I'm not familiar with any of them, but Connolly says the two things that we're famous for is our commitment to a program and our hatred of the United States Constitution, in speaking about the Democratic Socialists of America. And what that program does is give us a roadmap to revolution, and it gives us the obstacle that we finally have to get over to have a revolution, that being the Constitution, which is the basis for the United States government. And what the minimum maximum program, specifically what that format gives us, is that roadmap, and it gives us the minimum circumstances under which we would have to be able to take power and govern and it gives us the maximum program, which is the goals that we are actually aiming for. And it clarifies democracy as both the end goal and as part of the process to get there, ensuring the internal party democracy that we want to see in the DSA. So take a look at this guy. It's not strange to imagine that he might be a communist or he may hate the United States of America and the Constitution, but this gives you an insight into their plan and what they're currently doing right now. They are running for office. They plan to take power, and they plan to undo all of the positive things that have happened. This is one of the reasons why I frequently and continuously tell people on our side that they should be running for office. Undoubtedly, right now, the left is taking out the old guard at a greater rate than what the right is.
Goal. So the two things that we're famous for is our commitment to a program and our hatred of the United States Constitution. And what the program does...
Well, yeah, Randy, who did the poll? James Fishback? I mean, you have to... There are so many things to consider when looking at a poll, when looking at data, and when determining how much validity you're going to give it.
It gives us a roadmap to revolution, and it gives us the obstacle that we finally will have to get over to have a revolution, which is the United States Constitution, the basis of the United States government. And what the minimum maximum program specifically, what that format specifically gives us is that roadmap. It gives us the minimum circumstances under which we would be able to take power and govern, and it gives us the maximum program, which is the goals that we're actually aiming for. It also clarifies democracy as both the end goal and as part of the process to get there, ensures the internal party democracy that we want to see in DSA.
So this is the future of the Democrat Party. This is why older Democrat voters are switching and voting for Republicans, because they've actually lived through the scourge of communism. These younger Democrat voters, not only were they radicalized at universities where they were taught by communists who simply didn't care about the effects of communism, they believed that they could implement it successfully, even if they had to kill half the population because they would refuse to capitulate. But those people are young and they have no experience with this in a concrete manner. Salt Muncher says, got a clip to this link, Zach. Thanks. Yes. Wait, are you talking about the communist? Because this is the article that I am referencing right here, and I just dropped it into the chat on Rumble. So, yes. Also, just to underscore another piece of insanity about the modern left, this is the official Instagram account for the main breastfeeds account. This is real. This is not a joke. This is obviously something that I think many of us would look at and think that this has got to be a joke. Okay. But what you have here is a photograph of an overweight man with a beard wearing what appears to be a sports bra, his belly hanging out over his sweatpants, and he is harvesting milk from his breasts using a breast milk pumper. And it says, trans flag heart, National Breastfeeding Month is for every family. We are proud to celebrate and uplift trans lactation, chest feeding, and two-spirit families during National Breastfeeding Month. Every family deserves affirming, respectful, and evidence-based care. Creating inclusive spaces means recognizing that parents use different words to describe their feeding journeys and honoring each person's identity and lived experience. When healthcare communities and support systems are inclusive, families are better able to meet their feeding goals and feel empowered along the way. Milk makes families, and every family belongs. So yeah, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it that this was real, but this is the insanity that we live in right now. This is what the people who hate the Constitution of the United States are pushing on the younger generation. Of course, the younger generation is right there on Instagram. People, can you imagine like your grandfather 30, 40, 50 years ago? Somebody shows your grandfather this photograph of a man harvesting milk with a breast milk machine, and He says, what the hell are you showing me? Absolutely insane that this is where we are. It gets worse. It gets worse. But this might actually be a good thing because this woman put herself on blast. She is a California special ed teacher. And these disturbing videos that she also posted on Instagram out of her home state of California have prompted her to be investigated by the police. Her name is Kanisha Daly. So she teaches at Madeira Unified School District in Fresno, California. And she posted videos of herself holding a gun. And she suggested in these videos that it's time for black people to create a black mafia, shoot some guns, and rob some white people. So basically an average Saturday. Anyways, you know, she teaches special ed, but she is certified retarded. The kids she teaches know better than her, unless, of course, she is putting these poisoned ideas into the minds of the children that she is meant to be protecting. Starting today, I'm starting a black militia. We're going to rob some white people. On Saturday night, these videos were quickly reported to the school district by concerned people on Instagram. A local news agency reported that authorities conducted a home visit that resulted in a temporary restraining order and an ongoing investigation. MUSD and the Madeira Police Department completed a safety review to enhance security at Lincoln Elementary. In one of these clips, she says the statements about starting a black militia, robbing white people. On other videos on her Instagram, people had copied them and downloaded them. She shows her handgun, and she also had a rifle. The videos met with strong backlash online. Multiple other police agencies also got invested. Both Fresno and Madeira Police, as well as the school district, all of them said, we know about the videos. Stop calling us about the videos. In the meantime, the elementary school where she teaches has placed her on leave, and they also filed a restraining order against her. So let's watch the certified retardation of this woman posting these things online. Again, same people who hate the Constitution, same people who think it's totally cool for a man to breastfeed, same people who want to start a revolution, same people who want to make you kneel next to a pit, a mass grave in the middle of nowhere, just like Mao's Red Revolution.
Investigated. In a now viral video, a Madeira Unified special education teacher is seen making comments about starting a, quote, black militia, and encouraged others in the community to find and join her to, quote, rob some white people. Another clip shows her loading several firearms and laughing. The concerning video is posted to the teacher's Instagram account.
Oh, that's a shotgun, not a rifle. Okay.
Quickly prompting online backlash and a multi-agency investigation.
I know. Where's the chirp?
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for Action News Live at 11. I'm Christina Lopez. That educator is now on administrative leave and temporarily barred from Madeira Unified School District property.
Debbie, are you from Fresno? You're over there pronunciation policing me. She says, Madeira, not Madeira. Potato, my love.
Action News reporter Carrie Mannix brings us the videos now under investigation and the exclusive reaction from that teacher that you'll see only on Action News tonight.
Ooh, she made a statement?
Christina, police in both Fresno and Madeira are investigating those videos taken and posted by Kanisha Daly. Daly, who lives in Fresno, told me today she is cooperating with police and viewed what you're about to see as entertainment.
Woo, so entertaining.
Starting today, I'm starting a black militia. So if you're black, if you want to shoot some guns, come find me. We're going to rob some white people.
Get it, girl.
Police are investigating these videos posted to Instagram by a special education teacher for the Madeira Unified.
Oh, you grew up there? Okay, yeah. So I'm a Michigan boy, so obviously I put the emphasis on different syllables.
School district. In one clip, Kanisha Daly of Fresno says she's starting a black militia and will rob some white people. Other videos on Daly's Instagram captured by concerned citizens show her with a handgun and then what appears to be a long gun. She thinks it's funny. The videos were quickly met with strong online backlash and a multi-agency investigation. Fresno and Madera Police and the Madera Unified School District all told Action News they're aware of the videos and looking into them. In the meantime, the Lincoln Elementary School special education teacher was placed on leave and under a temporary restraining order.
Just wanting to do something, to be in action.
Daly has appeared in our newscasts several times. In July of 2024, she received free braces as a part of the Smiles for Teachers program and said this as a guest during Action.
It was a white dentist who gave her free braces, and she wants to shoot and rob them. Love it.
News Live at 3.
I realize that I am an avenue for my students to be able to integrate into classrooms, into the community. And so I'm a reflection of them.
Oh my God, do you guys see it? You see the bull ring? She's got the bull ring. You know right off the bat, this girl's crazy. Cross the street on that alone.
So I have to make sure that I'm reflecting the best parts of them.
More recently, she attended a community meeting with Fresno Police back in March and demanded more accountability and transparency over the department's use of military equipment.
Even though
So then she demands that local residents shoot and rob other people of your community? God.
have these meetings, we raise some concerns, and the major ones are still not going to be addressed.
With the controversial videos now under investigation and circulating online, Daly told me in a statement that she viewed the post as entertainment and never meant to threaten, harm, or alarm anyone.
Let me just give you a hypothetical. If never meant to harm or threaten anyone, if anyone, say a white person, goes on Instagram and like pulls out their Glock and says, guess what, boys? It's white boy summer. We're going to go shoot some guns and rob some black people. Is there anybody here who thinks that this woman or most people would not feel threatened or would not suggest that that was not an overt message of violence? I mean, of course they would. It's not okay to say no matter who you are. It's insanity.
Went on to say she is genuinely heartbroken that a careless post has caused people to question her character and the trust they have placed in her. For anyone who had been impacted or made to feel uncomfortable, I am truly sorry. Daly told me she spoke to police.
Trust revoked.
Who found no threat, but police are not commenting further as the investigation is ongoing. Madera Unified says they are developing long-term safety measures in response to this incident. Reporting from our studio, Carrie Manick.
Deb says the Mexican mafia would take this teacher out in Madera or Fresno. I'm sure they would. Okay, people like to act all hard on social media. At this point, I mean, that woman looks like she's got to be in her 30s. Like, she must, at this point, understand the ramifications of what you say online coming back to bite you in the ass. Maybe this is the first time. But her face, her eyes, she's got those crazy eyes, absolutely crazy. And then that heavy eye makeup, like, no, son, it ain't working. Anyways, oh, okay. You guys, I got to tell you about the next sponsor of today's program. Let me get this pulled up. All right. Before we move on to the next story, because I do not want to hand you a problem without handing you a way out of it. They wrote the rule. They staffed the agency. They built the product. And none of that changes unless you learn to watch the money yourself. I did an interview with a guy over the weekend called Mark Wilburn, and Mark teaches you exactly what I just said, how to watch your money. He is the president of Neos Capital Development Group, and he's putting on a training for my audience. It's completely free. There's no cost. There's no catch. I am going to be there. Mark took 141 trades last year, and he won 78% of them. He's been very, very successful. And two of the names that he gave away for free at his last event were SMR and NNE. They both climbed more than 200% after he called them out. He's also going to be sending everybody who registers a free copy of his book. So to take advantage of this, go ahead and go to the link in the description below or just type it into your browser, or you can use the QR code that you see on screen. But the link, if you go there direct, is redpillticket.com. And put your name down. Takes you 10 seconds to register. Once again, that is redpillticket.com. The link is in the description and the pinned comment, or you can use that QR code. It's either going to be Thursday, the 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific, or you can do it Saturday, the 22nd at 11 a.m. Eastern or 8 p.m. Pacific. I'm going to be there, obviously, on Saturday at 11 a.m. So join me over there and be a part of it. Thank you very much to Mark for sponsoring the program. Okay, you guys. Also, I need to say thank you very much to Mr. Grass 41 for $20. This is all insane. Communism never works. Too many people have to die. That's the thing. We already know that those people do not value human life in the same way that we do. You cannot support the aborting of a baby up to 9 months or even once it comes out of the womb and make any claims of caring about human life. They have already denigrated a human life to the point where they will kill a baby. They have no problem putting you at the end of a barrel, okay? They don't care if they have to cancel and kill half of the population. They only want people who are going to capitulate and go along with the communist agenda. So yes, it is insane, and these people have zero qualms about ending half the population. Thank you, C.K. Felt. Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Grass. C.K. Felt says, lately in the news, people have been getting away with everything. No consequences for bad behavior. She really didn't think she'd have consequences. What I've noticed is that the people who are getting caught doing these things, they lose their jobs, and then we never hear about them anymore. So we don't know what the end result is afterwards. It seems to me like a lot of people are getting caught and a lot of people are definitely getting consequences. The question only for me becomes, what consequences are they actually receiving? Certainly all of the stories that I bring you guys about the scammers and the politicians, we only hear about them when these people are charged and then they're arrested. Eventually, a couple of months down the line, maybe a year from now, I'll be able to bring you the information about how their trials go. That's, I think, what people are waiting for the most. But of course, because of the system that we live under, there is this this break in the timeline. You know, we hear about it when it first happens. We then hear about it only once the trials begin. And there is so much time that elapses between there. I think that people forget the connection between the two. But that is why I'm here, because I want to make sure nobody forgets, and I want to hold these people accountable just as badly as you guys do. All right. Thank you also to Ina over on Pilled. Says, cheers to the honeymoon plans. I appreciate you. Lisa and I are still trying to decide where we're going to go. We got to get our passports too. I've never been outside the country, so we are trying to figure where we can go on a budget. And Lisa was telling me that she would be okay if I actually filmed some of the stuff, and then I can show you guys what I do to do it as cheaply as possible. So maybe I'll be able to do that. Brewbark also says, your accents alone are worth the price of admission. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you to Sean Joe as well for the cookie. And thank you to Filter Dog. Fauci's former senior advisor, David Morins, just pled guilty to conspiracy to defraud the U.S. That's why I love you, because if I don't have the story pulled up, then I know you're going to have the juice for me. So let me real quick. I do not have the story about David Morins. David Morins pleads guilty. Let's see. All right. So trying to find, here we are from the Department of Justice. Let's go into that story right here. All right. Dr. David Morins, former senior NIAID official, pleads guilty to charges connected to concealing federal records during the COVID-19 pandemic. A former National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases employee, also someone who was very, very closely associated with one Dr. Anthony Fauci, has pled guilty in federal court today to a conspiracy charge stemming from a scheme to evade Freedom of Information Act requests and the Federal Records Act in connection with communications and coronavirus research grants. CK Felt, here we go. Case in point, my brother. Somebody who was only very recently charged, and now, very quickly, he pled guilty to get this over and done with. David Morins of Chester, Maryland, pled guilty to the conspiracy to commit offenses and to defrauding the United States. Morins was the senior advisor in the NIAID's Office of the Director from 2006 to 2022. Kelly O. Hayes, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland, announced the guilty plea with Special Agent in Charge Jimmy Paul from the FBI's Baltimore field office and Special Agent in Charge Marcus L. Sykes, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General. Now, according to his plea, Morin's, co-conspirator 1, co-conspirator 2, and others conspired during the COVID-19 pandemic to defraud the United States after the NIH terminated co-conspirator 1's grant. NIH terminated the grant, understanding the risk of bat coronavirus emergence based on allegations that COVID-19 emerged from the Wuhan Institute of Virology in Wuhan, China. NIAID awarded the grant to Company 1 and co-conspirator 1, who made a subaward to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, following the termination, Morin's and co-conspirator 2 pledged to help co-conspirator 1 restore the termination of the bat coronavirus grant and counter the narrative that the COVID-19 virus leaked from a lab. In anticipation that their communications would be requested through FOIA requests, Morin's, co-conspirator 1 and co-conspirator 2 agreed in writing to intentionally hide their communications from public view by corresponding using Morin's personal Gmail account rather than his official NIH email. The co-conspirators used Morin's personal Gmail account to exchange non-public NIH information, corresponded about their efforts to influence NIH to fund Company 1, exchange edits to drafts of letters addressed to NIH leadership for Company 1 and co-conspirator 1, and back-channel information to senior NIAID official 1. According to court documents, each of these matters fell within Morin's role as senior advisor and constituted federal records that needed to be created, maintained, and exchanged on government systems. Additionally, as admitted to in his guilty plea, Morin's and co-conspirator 1 conspired to pay illegal gratuities. Co-conspirator 1 gifted Morin's wine for his behind-the-scenes shenanigans, that's a quote, and arranged for its delivery to Morin's Maryland residence. Morin's then allegedly identified an official act that he could perform to deserve the gift, which was to author a scientific commentary in a prominent medical journal advocating that COVID-19 had natural origins. Co-conspirator 1 suggested he would provide Morin's with additional things of value, including meals at Michelin star restaurants in Paris, New York, and Washington, D.C. Morin's is facing up to 5 years in prison for conspiracy to commit offenses to defraud the United States. Actual sentences for federal crimes are typically less than the maximum penalties, and a federal district judge determines sentencing after considering the U.S. sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. So once we know what Morin's punishment will be, obviously, we will report that here for you. I am extremely excited to know that that's happening. Lukester777 over on Rumble says, love you, brother. So excited to hear y'all are planning a honeymoon trip. That will be incredible. Have a blast. Thank you, my friend. Yes, I am excited about it myself. Like I said, never been outside the country. It's been over a year since we got married, and we still haven't been able to have a honeymoon yet. But, you know, we've been saving up, and we're looking forward to being able to get it done. All right. Listen to this crazy situation in Virginia. A murderer, an Islamist, an illegal migrant who killed his landlord was found not guilty by reason of insanity. That's not the worst part. He was placed in a mental institution. And do you remember that that county attorney, the guy who came and testified in Congress about, you know, all of the people that he was letting go? Well, that guy signed a release or a request to allow this murderer to get out of the insane asylum for a weekend. Not only that, but he also knew that he was going to be driven to the embassy of Tajikistan. Promptly, that murderer goes to the embassy, gets himself a new passport, and then flies away, leaves the United States of America, and goes to a country where, of course, there is no extradition to the United States. So this is all the fault of the Northern Virginia Mental Health Institute. They basically just handed this killer, Abdullahi Tashpulidzoza, this unsupervised 48-hour weekend pass. And that is despite the fact that a court order said he shall not be released from custody. He shall not be released from inpatient hospitalization without further order of this court. The first thing he did, he went to Washington Dulles International Airport. He got on a one-way trip to Istanbul on Turkish Airlines, and then he continued on to Tajikistan. And he's gone like Kaiser Soze. He's in the wind, never to return. This is yet another failure of the criminal justice system under left-wing Governor Abigail Spanberger. Now, the circumstances of this case. In 2019, Tosh Polazoza stabbed his roommate and landlord, Mohammed Hamashian, stabs him to death in Vienna, Virginia, inside the home. When investigators arrived, they found him covered in blood, head to toe, like he had bathed in the blood of his enemies, typical Islamist. And he walked out and said, "I am guilty." Now, despite the confession, they found him not guilty by reason of insanity in 2022. Court records show his attorney argued he was fixated on religious topics and he was illogical and nonsensical. Again, a typical Muslim, okay? Like all of them are focused on their religion and they will put everything up to their religion. Basically, it gives them the okay to do whatever they want to whomever they want. I will not be going to a third world nation like Mexico. I promise you. I want to go somewhere that we will feel safe and somewhere that I don't have to worry about pickpockets and sea urchins and asylum-seeking immigrants stealing things from our bags or getting murdered by the cartel or the deep state. All right, so on June 11th and then again on June 29th of this year, Fairfax County Circuit Court Judge Stephen Shannon ruled that Tosh Polazoza remained mentally ill and needed to stay inpatient. The judge ordered he should not be released from custody without a further court order. Prosecutors had opposed permanent release. They said he's obviously a threat to public safety. And court records noted that there were some concerns that deportation would prevent him from receiving treatment. We can't send him back to his home country because they won't be able to help him, not like we can. So then days later, around June 25th, the Northern Virginia Mental Health Institute authorized one of his unaccompanied community visits not to exceed 48 hours. On July 6th, they let him walk out in this 48-hour pass, and he was supposed to go to a Fairfax County supported apartment. Well, he never came back. Once he failed to come back on July 8th, the Institute reportedly classified him as an escapee. They revoked his pass, big deal, and then they issued a facility warrant. State and federal authorities were notified. A bench warrant was later issued, but obviously the brother was gone. Now, according to court records, citing by Fox 5 DC, he, of course, went to the airport, went to Dulles, boarded that one-way trip to Turkey, to Istanbul on Turkish Airlines, and then made his way to Tajikistan. So the Northern Virginia Mental Health Institute is operated by the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. And the department is overseen by a man by the name of Darrell Washington. He's the commissioner, and he is appointed by none other than leftist Democrat Governor Abigail Spanberger. He's only been on the job since January of 2026. Misfit Angie, I'm from Michigan, so I have spent many, many summers and done trips to the UP. I've taken Lisa to the UP actually as well. So we're trying to go someplace that neither of us have ever been before, which is why we're looking at going out of the country. I've basically been to every state in the U.S. So I want to do something different. And Lisa obviously wants to go to like a beach. She wants to go someplace super special. So anyways, Virginia law allows mental health facilities to grant these unescorted, go to Viagra Falls. We've been to Niagara Falls. I've never been to Viagra Falls. So they allow people to go out on these privileges. And apparently they let him out once before in 2024. And that was the time that he went and got his passport from Tajikistan. They should have known at the time that he left to go to the embassy and get himself a passport, that the next time they let him out, it's highly likely that he might never be coming back. In his records, he's described as an illegal from Tajikistan who's now been repatriated, but American taxpayers funded his housing and treatment for years after he killed this man for no reason at all. This is what happens in a place like Virginia. This is what happens when progressives take over. They want to pay for everything. They want to pay for your food. They want to pay for your housing. They want to pay for your treatment, and they even pay for your release. I bet you there's probably some way they're probably going to find that the taxpayers of Virginia also paid for that one-way trip to Istanbul and then to Tajikistan. Anyways, I don't think the governor has commented on this yet, and I don't know that they're going to say anything. It's a pretty big blunder, and it makes everybody in the state of Virginia that has any sort of authority look like a total D-bag. Let me see. Thank you again to Filter Dog for keying us in on what happened with Morins. Will Morins cooperate for a lesser sentence? That is certainly something that I am considering. Also, you have to take into account the fact that there are co-conspirators, so there are other people who have also a lot to lose. In something like this, it looks like because those co-conspirators are not named, I don't know if they're not listed as unindicted co-conspirators. So that means that they too are being charged. And at that point, it's a race to see who can actually speak to the feds. Now, because he pled guilty, I think it's even more likely that he will be a cooperating witness in any number of other cases. So if there is an extended period between his pleading guilty and any announcement of what his sentence will be, it's likely because he is actively participating. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Judy the Lady Pug, thank you for that cookie. I appreciate that. All right, now let's go from one progressive governed area to another progressive governed area. We're going to skip from Virginia all the way to Boston, Mass. How you like them apples, Will? Anyways, the progressive left-wing mayor of Boston, Mayor Wu, Brianna Wu, is building a list of every private citizen in Boston who owns a private parking lot and is allowing ICE to park there. So ICE had to put out a public notice because they're obviously doing operations in Boston, but they got to have a place to park their cars. So they publicly said, we need 249 parking spots, and the city is not, it's a wicked pisser to be an ICE agent in Boston. Yeah, for real. Anyways, it's a wicked pisser when you're an ICE agent in Boston in January, and it's wicked awesome after we arrest all of them dirty illegals. So anyways, she can stop ICE from parking in public lots that are owned by the city, but she can't stop them from parking in private lots that are owned by people who want to get rid of those illegals. So rather than allowing these people to have ICE park there and remain private, she's actually filing a FOIA request for every person in Boston that answered those requests by ICE for parking spaces. And she is telling those owners that they will be exposed. It's a pretty radical thing for her to do. And obviously it's meant to chill the ability for ICE to operate there in Boston.
Mayor Michelle Wu opposes any ICE expansion in Boston. She admits she can't block ICE from using private property, so she's trying to lean on property owners not to go along. Only on 5, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu working to find out which private...
Oh, Carla from New Zealand. She says, if you come to New Zealand, we can get you a car and a place to stay in Auckland. And you almost get $2 to your $1 because the exchange rate. That is one of the algorithmic things that I am working into the decision. Where can we get the best exchange rate and spend the most money for our time there? But thank you, Carla. We'll keep that in mind. What are you talking about, Jed? Get to the subject line. Stop your BS. I don't know what you're pissed off about, but anyways, let's continue with the story because now you're the one interrupting.
Property owners are responding to ICE's request for hundreds of parking spots, a move that could help ICE expand its presence in the city.
We cannot block private property, but we will be contacting property owners to make sure they understand our view on how dangerous this could be for our residents.
Last month, ICE posted a request to lease 249 parking spaces in downtown Boston. It's unclear if the agency is expanding or opening a new facility. The mayor says she's filing public records requests requests to find out more information about the plans and about who is responding so she can tell them it's not a good idea.
We, as a city, will be filing another FOIA request for any responses that have come in from the Boston area so that we know what information they may be sifting through.
How is this not like an abuse of government? Using the power and the authority of government to punish public citizens who merely want to assist the federal government in the enforcement of immigration law that is passed by Congress. This is truly disgusting.
We strongly oppose any expansion of their efforts here.
Mayor Wu has signed an executive order limiting ICE from staging operations or making civil immigration arrests on city property, including in parking garages, parks, and buildings. Her options appear limited on private property, but that doesn't appear to be stopping her.
But on private property, you really can't limit it, right? But is this a way to do that?
Unfortunately, we already have proof of what happens when they conduct a surge operation. We've seen it in other cities.
Now, the Department of Homeland Security is not confirming office or parking locations for ICE, citing safety concerns. We have reached out to ICE and DHS.
All right. So Patrick D35, I saw this post from John. John Cullen posted on X that Fang Fang died in a plane crash. I told him he should reach out to you because you would talk to her. So, yes, a lot of people get this confused. Another woman who was a different age, who worked in a different industry, also named Fang Fang, did die in a plane crash. And this has been a sort of ongoing thing for many years. It's just another person named Fang Fang. It's like somebody else named John Cullen, if they died in a plane crash. So I'm not sure why John doesn't realize that. But, you know, I mean, it's just, it's a mistake. There is another woman who was also named Fang Fang. I have seen pictures of both of them. They are two totally different people. Verified this years ago. Definitely somebody else. Okay, so yeah, we'll see if he reaches out. I mean, he hasn't responded to me when he disappeared for all those months, and then he came back. He hasn't responded to me, so I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to talk to me or something like that. But anyways, I would love to talk to him again. He's a great guy. All right, now, we also have this report right here about ICE lodging a detainer against an illegal alien who was accused of a hit and run in North Carolina, leaving a father dead in the street. So the man in question is, of course, an illegal alien. He committed this hit and run, and it took a life. Now, this occurred on August 2nd in Sylva, North Carolina. James Robert Bagley III was struck and killed by this hit and run driver. He was 51 years old, and he was left to die in the streets. This is, of course, something that has happened on many occasions. Again. Warrior Mima, thank you very much for that donation over on Ko-Fi. Let me see if there is a message to relay. Honeymoon Fund, she says, $50. Thank you very much, Mima. Honeymoon Fund, I hope you have a wonderful time with your lovely wife, Lisa. Thank you very much. We both appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, so the alleged driver is Mauricio Josu Alberto Sarmiento. Now, he has been arrested, and according to DHS, he entered the United States illegally, of course, during the Biden regime. He came in through Texas as an unaccompanied minor in October 2021. Well, he ain't a minor now, and he's a killer. So U.S. Border Patrol detained him, and after which time he was, quote-unquote, reunified with a non-family sponsor. They let him go into the country, but now ICE is saying, you better hand him over to us. Mark Wayne Mullen said that they were asking officials in Jackson County to please cooperate. Do not release this criminal from jail without notifying ICE. He said, if it weren't for the Biden administration's disastrous open borders policy, Mr. James Bagley would still be alive. And obviously, securing our border, deporting these illegal aliens, we want to save lives. We want to prevent tragedies like this from happening. Now, the local Sylva Police Department shows that Sarmiento faces multiple charges. That includes felony hit and run resulting in serious injury or death, driving without liability insurance, driving while his license is revoked, and exceeding safe speed and a failure to reduce speed. Officers also determined that Mr. Sarmiento has another outstanding warrant in Jackson County. And the police chief, Amy Sumner, said, this arrest represents a significant step in our investigation. And I want to thank all of the investigators, our partner agencies, and the members of the community who came forward with information. Barb Rocks, thank you very much for gifting the 5 subscriptions to viewers on Rumble. Congrats to anybody who gets one. She said, our thoughts remain with the family and the loved ones of James Bagley as they continue to cope with this tremendous loss. While an arrest has been made, the case is not over. We remain committed to conducting a thorough investigation and ensuring the facts are presented through the judicial process. We now ask the public to continue respecting the integrity of the case as it moves forward. I want to see if there is a clip, because if they interviewed the family of Mr. Bagley, I think that it would be in good taste to play it, but they don't have anything. God rest Mr. Bagley's soul, and please, Lord, stay with his family and keep them safe. Now, here we have another one, and we're almost done with the immigration murder section of today's show, but this is a case where an Ethiopian national, somebody who had legal status in the United States, which is something you frequently hear the left say. He's got a valid work order. He's got legal status. Why are you arresting him? Well, he was just convicted of murdering the beautiful young woman that you see on screen in Salt Lake City. His name is Kittus Chain Johannes. He's 39 years old. He stabbed 20-year-old Candace Samples, now forever 20, more than 20 times back in 2018. There was a confrontation over a stolen cell phone behind a Dollar Tree. He also stabbed another man who came to basically save her from being murdered, and a jury found him guilty of aggravated murder and attempted manslaughter last week. He will be sentenced on September 29th. DHS confirmed that Johannes entered the country legally through Chicago back in 1997, and he was granted legal status in 2003. So this guy has been here for the majority of his life, and he never fully assimilated. Once a murderer, always a murderer. ICE lodged this detainer with the Salt Lake County Jail after the conviction. His records also include convictions for receiving stolen property, fraud, damage to property, illegal use of credit cards, forgery, plus charges of burglary and possessing burglary tools. This guy should have been kicked out of this country a long time ago, well before he had the opportunity to stab a 20-year-old girl more than 20 times. So hopefully Salt Lake City is going to honor that detainer, and they'll be able to pick him up and send him to some dirt hole in a hellish prison somewhere outside of the United States. All right. Now, Minnesota's radical attorney general, Keith Ellison, is now suing Texas because they are trying to extradite an ICE agent. This is a follow-up to a story that we learned many, many months ago. But Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, has announced that his office is filing a lawsuit against Greg Abbott to force the extradition of this ICE agent that was involved in a shooting earlier this year. So previously reported that the ICE agent charged in the non-fatal shooting of a Venezuelan migrant who was arrested in Texas in May. They are trying to extradite a man from Texas who shot a Venezuelan in Texas. They want to charge him and actually try him in Minnesota. I sincerely hope that Texas tells Minnesota to F all the way off. So Mary Moriarty charged this ICE agent for the non-fatal shooting. She says he was here legally in the United States. Moriarty charged the agent, identified now publicly as Christian Castro, with 4 counts of second-degree assault and 1 count of falsely reporting a crime. In January, ICE agents were involved in a shooting in Minneapolis. As Governor Walz claimed, federal agents are going door-to-door, ordering people to the point where neighbors don't want to go outside. Now, ICE agents shot a shovel-wielding Venezuelan. This was what was really notable about the story. He tried to assault federal law enforcement with that shovel. There was a Venezuelan teen that was shot in the leg as a result of it. Now, Keith Ellison said Texas must extradite Castro. Castro has been charged with breaking the law in Minnesota. He must face justice in Minnesota. Governor Abbott should have granted Governor Walz's extradition request long ago and is required to do so now. I don't think he should be required to do anything. Anyways, this is a case that is really going to test the separation of powers. This was a federal agent involved in the enforcement of federal immigration laws. You had 3 illegal aliens that were all basically creating the circumstance which led to one of these people being shot, and there was no laws that were broken. But let's hear Keith Ellison out, this pinko bastard.
I informed him that if he did not sign the rendition warrant by the end of the day yesterday, I would sue to compel him to do so. Governor Abbott did not respond. Christian Castro is still not here to face justice. Therefore, this morning, my office filed suit asking the federal court in Texas to require Governor Abbott to sign the warrant to block sign the warrant and to block the Cameron County Sheriff from releasing Castro until Minnesota law enforcement can arrive there to physically transport Castro here to face the charges laid against him. The court has the authority to order the governor and the sheriff to do this. The 1987 Supreme Court decision that I referenced earlier, known as Puerto Rico versus Branstad.
It did happen, and it did happen in Minnesota. The shovel thing happened in Minnesota, but for some reason the article says that the shooting happened in Texas. I'm still confused about it. But anyways, yes, this whole event took place in Minnesota.
It affirmed the principle that states must honor each other's extradition requests, and asserted that the federal courts have the authority to compel states to honor each other's extradition requests. The urgency of this filing is that Texas law imposes a 90-day limit on the detention of fugitives awaiting extradition. This means that as early as August 26, a week from tomorrow, 90 days after he was first captured and detained, Christian Castro could walk free from jail in Texas and flee justice in Minnesota, including by leaving the country. In the last 5 years, Governor Walz has honored all 21 of Governor Abbott's requests to extradite fugitives to Texas. In that same period, Governor Abbott has honored 11 of Governor Walz's requests to extradite fugitives to Minnesota until today. Well,
that's because this is a federal agent. He's not a fugitive. This is a bullshit effort to punish someone acting under the color of law, under the full authority of the federal government. He had every right to use his weapon, just like the agents had every right to use their weapon against Alex Pretty and Renee Nicole Good.
I said none of us should be here today. This is exactly what I meant. Christian Castro has been charged with breaking the law in Minnesota. He must face justice in Minnesota. Governor Abbott should have granted Governor Walz's extradition request long ago, and it's required to do so now.
I don't think he's going to do it. So I'm just going to call it right now, and I'm going to say that Keith Ellison is going to be wanting this extradition to happen, and he's going to keep wanting that extradition to happen. It's not going to take place. All right, now we're going to transition. It's kind of a segue. It still has to do with illegals, but now we're talking about elections. In the same area that James O'Keefe and Cam Higbee went undercover as fake Muslims, and Muckraker has also done the same thing, only they went a step further, and they actually were able to get election workers to essentially allow members of Hamas who were stated to not be citizens to vote in the primary election using Minnesota's controversial vouching system. And we do have a rather lengthy report. We're not going to watch the whole thing. Yeah, what law did he break? Yeah, they don't think that he didn't break any laws. That's the thing. But they're just claiming that he broke the law. So Josh Rubin of muckraker.com, he went undercover as a man named Mohammed. And he went to various Minneapolis polling stations, and he confirmed that members of a foreign terrorist organization can vote if they are vouched for by members of the community. We put Minnesota's voter vouching system to an extreme test by asking if it was okay to vouch for alleged Hamas militants who had recently come to America from the Gaza Strip. So the Minnesota poll workers confirmed to Muckraker that members of Hamas, which is a designated terrorist organization, can vote if the community vouches for them. You can vouch for up to 8 people, as we know. If you're vouching for Hamas, they wouldn't need to show anything. So let's take a look at a brief segment from the report.
These guys were actually members of Hamas. They got here recently. I don't really know their citizenship status. They're from the Gaza Strip, and they want to vote today.
It's okay.
I can vote, right?
Correct. If he's vouching, you can vouch for up to 8 people.
My friends here would need to show what?
If you're vouching for them, they wouldn't need to show anything.
They don't need to show anything.
Is that like a common thing for people to vouch for Hamas members?
In Minnesota's electoral system, there is a process known as vouching, where a registered voter can vouch for 8 non-voter registered individuals. And the vouching process stands in for a proof of ID or residency or other documentation that the vouchee would need to show in order to register to vote. So in other words, if I was registered to vote here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, I could vouch for 8 other individuals who are not registered to vote. And all I would need to do is swear that I am verifying that the individuals I am vouching for live in the same precinct as I do. So what we're going to do today is speak to some election workers and ask, is it okay for me to vouch?
Poll workers are all volunteers. But they've also, if they allowed for members of Hamas or illegal aliens to vote, then they would be held legally accountable under the same circumstances that Harmeet Dillon sent letters to all of the clerks and the state's attorneys general.
For some of my friends who just got flown in from the Gaza Strip, who are members of Hamas, and is it okay for them then to participate in today's election?
Hi. We want to know more about the vouching.
So if you all live in this precinct, if one of you is able to register with the identity and residence verification documents, you can vouch for others who may live in the precinct as well. And you can vouch for up to 8 people as long as everyone lives in this particular precinct.
Oh, ZZ says I get paid to work at the polls. I was not aware of that. I just thought everybody did it out of the kindness of their heart. Okay, maybe it's different depending on where you are actually working at the polls, or maybe everybody gets paid. That's news to me. Thank you for letting me know, ZZ. The boxing cat. I just thought everybody was a volunteer. Okay, thank you.
And then my friends here would need to show what?
If you're vouching for them, they wouldn't need to show anything.
They don't need to show anything.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we would verify your documents, so your identity, your residential documents, and then the people you're vouching for. You are their documents.
You represent their document at that point. You're saying you know that they live.
Just being straight up with you guys, they got here recently. I don't really know their citizenship status. They're from the Gaza Strip. Okay. And well, these guys were actually members of Hamas, and they want to vote today.
Okay.
It's okay.
So
they just broke her brain. They just broke her brain.
You would be under oath, letting us know that they are eligible to vote in this precinct.
But I can vote. I can vote, right?
If he vouches.
If he signs, then I can vote, right?
Correct. If he's vouching that.
And look at this guy, too. Everybody has the same vacant, dead-eyed stare. I just want to say, when I voted today, I did not see that in my local precinct. Shocking. Well, anyways, this is just more confirmation that in Minnesota, anybody can vote, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, as long as you've got somebody who's willing to go under oath and swear to the fact that you live in the same neighborhood as them. So this is obviously a big problem, and I can only hope that the DOJ is going to be addressing it. Now, one of the other people I just mentioned, Cam Higbee, the man who dressed up in the full burqa, went undercover as a female Muslim voter. He's actually had his TikTok account permanently banned because of his reports exposing the fact that anybody can vote in Minnesota as long as somebody is willing to go under oath for them. So Cam Higby's account has now been taken down. Probably, I would have expected this under the old TikTok regime, but I'm kind of surprised under the new TikTok regime. Maybe it's because he was mass reported by all of the other Somali scammers in the state of Minnesota. Not exactly certain. So TikTok actually first deleted all of his videos of the sting. And then after they deleted all of the videos, that was done free in the original Constitution. So yeah, that's okay. That's what I thought. I mean, it just seemed like you volunteer on election day. Anyways, I don't know. But after they deleted the videos, he was banned earlier today. He said, my TikTok account was just perma-banned after I posted 2 clips from my Burqa report in Minneapolis. TikTok says the videos were election misinformation. Yesterday, I received a warning saying my account was at risk. I never posted again, and today it was banned at 780,000 followers. This is very saddening, as my account was verified, and I've worked with TikTok corporate and politicians to prevent the app from being banned in the name of free speech. I built a strong relationship with the company. Today, that company chose to ban me. I was also banned from the platform in 2021 on Biden's inauguration day when the app was my primary income. TikTok repeatedly told me that I didn't violate their guidelines. My account would be unbanned and then banned again a week later repeatedly until it was wiped from their system. So very, very sad for him, but of course, really, again, not too unexpected in places where it is considered mainstream. Still waiting to see what happens over here on YouTube. Anyways, now let's talk about another release coming from the White House's recent spate of declassifications. This time, we learn a little bit more information about the NSA and the election security information that they sat on, a report that they were afraid Trump would deem as proof the deep state exists. So in a tense meeting back in March of 2020, this was just months before the presidential election, the National Security Agency's deputy director took the executive decision of blocking the release of a long-delayed report on foreign targeting of U.S. elections. It's not because the intelligence was flawed, but because he feared it would brand the agency as part of the deep state. So in the memo, it reads thusly: DDIR explained that he was concerned that releasing the report at this time in the current political climate with an acting ODNI who had been tasked to clean house in the intelligence community and with an administration that is suspicious of the intelligence community and aggressive in removing anyone who stands in their way, it would damage the NSA's credibility. He believed that questions would be asked as to why the NSA was choosing to release this information, most obviously pertinent to the 2016 election, now more than a year after the election, and that the NSA would be accused of releasing it for political purposes. DDIR perceived that ODNI, CIA, and to an extent the FBI had been tarred as hosting or being part of the deep state, but that the NSA thus far had not been associated with the deep state and was trusted. He felt that publishing this report would destroy that trust, and he felt that questioning of NSA would ensue, and it would have ramifications on the credibility of NSA reporting overall, and would result in morale problems within the broader NSA workforce. He repeatedly said he wanted to protect our ability to be who we are at the NSA, nonpartisan, objective, and speaking truth to power. So in attempting to be that, they basically confirmed that, yes, they actually were part of the deep state, because they didn't release the information that they had, which obviously would have been pertinent to also the 2020 election, which was coming up in just a couple of months. So this recently declassified document is a contemporaneous written account by an NSA analyst of a meeting on the day about whether or not or how to release a long-delayed intelligence report at a time when President Trump had levied sharp criticism on the intelligence community and questioned their security of elections. Well, it's been released now by the White House Government Transparency Task Force. You can read the memo in its entirety through them. But the memo was part of evidence that was reviewed and we've spoken about previously by a man by the name of Barry Zalouf. He was the intelligence community ombudsman. And before he wrote a scathing report that was published in 2021 alleging spy agencies here in the U.S. had engaged in the politicization of intelligence on foreign election interference during the 2020 election. And the memo dated March 13th, 2020, declassified August 12th, 2026 by White House counsel David Warrington. It was written by one of the analysts that had produced the report. The author repeatedly refers to "we the analysts" and notes personal frustration that higher-ups delayed the report for 16 months while the analytic work itself had already been completed in a timely manner. Now, this report had been proposed for release in December 2018, and it concerned foreign targeting of the United States that began all the way back in 2014. The report also included activity related to the 2016 election. Now, an earlier, more limited version of the reporting had been published, but the fuller version was held up for two main reasons, according to the document. First, it would unavoidably contextually identify members of Congress, even with their names removed, which triggered the need for pre-approval under Gates procedures. And some of the 2016 election details were judged sensational and therefore required a more restricted distribution. Now, according to the document, higher levels, which included the ODNI, had repeatedly failed to make timely decisions for roughly 16 months, effectively holding this back from being released. Then by February 2020, the distribution list had finally been approved. The report was pushed for release pending approval by the NSA director, then General Paul Nakasone, and the deputy director, George Barnes, objected to releasing it as is at this time. Barnes had proposed several alternatives. That included releasing a watered-down summary instead of the full assessment. The analyst pushed back, noting that amalgamating the material would still contextually identify members of Congress, especially regarding the 2016 Democratic field of Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. And it would look even more selective and therefore more political if only Republican field analysts were retained. Analysis were retained. The analysts then argued there was lasting foreign intelligence value in the original analytic language and in policy preferences expressed by the foreign actors that remained relevant beyond 2016. In the same meeting, they also addressed a then draft report on the Russian Internet Research Agency's preferences and strategy for the 2020 Democratic primary. This is another product that faced identical Gates procedures problems of unavoidably identifying members of Congress. Barnes floated the idea of folding some of the 2016 material into the new 2020 product, or even exploring a non-serialized sharing process so that only selected analysts could even see the information without a formal, broadly distributed report. So these 2020-era IC intelligence community fights over election interference reporting and subsequent fears of politicization are not isolated. U.S. intel analysts reportedly also hid evidence of Chinese 2020 election meddling from President Trump because they opposed his China policies. This is from a 2021 Analytic Ombudsman report. One China analyst refused to send intel to the Bulgarian in the Oval Office. This also produced a majority IC assessment which downplayed Chinese influence, while a minority view backed by then DNI Ratcliffe concluded that Beijing did actually try to undermine President Trump. Now, this newly declassified NSA memo and the ombudsman's findings show parallel internal struggles inside the intelligence community in 2021 and the surrounding years, one in which senior NSA leadership delayed a foreign targeting product out of explicit fear of being labeled deep state, and another in which working-level China analysts suppressed inconvenient reporting out of personal policy opposition to the sitting president. I think the continuing message that we get every single time there is a release having to do with findings in the intelligence community is that despite their best efforts to not appear politicized, despite their best efforts to not appear to be deep state, they freaking are every single time. Every time they decide to hold something back because they don't like the policies of the man we elected to be president and safeguard and secure the United States of America. They are just confirming the fact that, yes, they are deep state. And I sincerely hope that every single person who was involved in holding this back is gone. Several I know to be are, but there were obviously a lot of other people happening behind the scenes. Denise says, Zach, I also get paid. It's not a lot at all for the 14 to 18-hour days, plus the training we have to do. I didn't know we got paid when I started 4 years ago. All right, I appreciate you. G. Fontes says, Florida poll workers are paid at differing rates, depending on the type of job, their experience, and the training they've committed. All right. Now, before we continue with our next story, I have one final message from a sponsor on Rumble. And that is going to be Rumble themselves. You guys have probably noticed Rumble is not slowing down. You've got more creators, more content, and a platform that's actually putting users and free speech first. And if you're watching here regularly, there is a way to upgrade your primary user experience. Right now, Rumble is running a limited time summer sale on Rumble Premium, and it's the lowest price they've ever offered. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform, no pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you actually came for. Plus, you unlock exclusive content from top creators like Steven Crowder, Dr. Disrespect, even from little old me. There are special live events and even more that you won't see anywhere else. So here's the deal. Normally, Rumble Premium is $99 a year, but during the summer sale, you can lock it in for $69 a year for life, which is a great deal. Not just 1 year. Every single year you stay subscribed, you keep that $69 rate. There's no promo code or extra steps. You simply go to rumble.com/premium, and the summer sale price is already applied. Or if you're on Rumble, you can use that QR code right there. Once again, that's rumble.com/premium to lock in that low price. It's the lowest Rumble's ever offered, ad-free, exclusive content, and a price that never goes back up. But only if you grab it before the summer sale ends. Thank you very much to Rumble. Also, thank you very much to my brother from another mother, #1 Indiana Dad. He says, donation for your honeymoon. In Indiana, poll workers are compensated while each county determines the amount. Thank you so much for letting me know, guys. I appreciate it. Also, thank you very much to Sean Joe on Pilled for the Cookie. Thank you to Filter Dog, who says, it's time for Minnesota to repay the American people for the fraud committed in their state involving federal programs. Governor Abbott. Wow. Okay, I love that response. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. All right. Now, we're going to go back to Minnesota. And Minnesota's Outstanding Refugee Award recipient has just gotten busted for also defrauding Medicaid for over $1 million with the help of individuals connected to a sex trafficking ring. Let's see. Is it the same sex trafficking ring that the county attorney was running? I don't know, but let's hear about it. This should probably not surprise anyone. It seems like every single day I've got a new story for you about a Somali migrant who's involved in scamming the American taxpayer. And in this instance, no less, somebody that Minnesota said was an upstanding and outstanding individual. Now, KMSP reported yesterday that Salman Ahmed Elmi is the last name of people that are connected to the Feeding Our Future scam. He was honored as an outstanding refugee by the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Well, he's been busted for the defrauding of Medicaid for over $1 million. And that's not all. Police also say Elmi's alleged co-conspirators at Riva Health in Golden Valley also have connections to this recent sex trafficking case. So Elmi is accused himself of billing Medicaid for more than $1 million in services that were never provided or were never eligible. Riva Health provided autism services and adult rehabilitative mental health services. So Elmi and the other co-conspirators are accused of falsifying these documents to get these Medicaid reimbursements. And then prosecutors say the other co-conspirators directed staff to pay kickbacks to people so that they could use their information to make these claims. A familiar story that we've heard so many times before. The charges state 2 people involved in the fraud enterprise, former Anoka County prosecutor Andrea Sampson. This is, yes, the same sex trafficking case we talked about at the beginning of the show. And Frank Devon Reeves were also involved in that sex trafficking ring that was busted in Hennepin County. Individuals charged in that case face a slew of charges, and authorities said that there could be many more victims who suffered as a result. Now, in addition to being named as this outstanding refugee, The state of Minnesota honored Elmy with an entrepreneurship award in 2021. It's always entrepreneurial pursuits that scam the taxpayers. Elmy is the founder and part owner of this Minneapolis-based startup called Tovolo. They received funding from Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary. Tovolo is an AI marketing app for restaurants. Oh my God, he's also a Shark Tank winner. Anyways, Elmy then used the honor of being a part owner in this Minnesota-based startup to secure the loan to start Riva Health. The refugee once claimed that he started a business to inspire other people. But at the same time, Elmy was claiming his business allowed him to provide for his family and work on his terms. Turns out those terms were fairly interesting and highly illegal, considering that he was ripping off the American taxpayer and then providing for his family using those ill-gotten gains. So he's been charged with 3 counts of aiding and abetting by swindle and 5 counts of aiding and abetting by false representation. His first court appearance is, maybe it was yesterday or it's going to be next week. I don't know what Monday. But hold on a second. Let's see if we have maybe a clip from Shark Tank. That would be the piece de resistance. No, let's see if we can find it on X. Okay. Salman Ahmed Elmy. Let's go look for that Shark Tank clip. Okay, well, we do have this clip here from one of my favorite local reporters in Minneapolis. Look at this. Here he is on a boat. Never thought I'd be on a boat. It's a big blue watery road. Believe me when I say yay.
The big sex trafficking case in Hennepin County is also a major fraud case, with the defendants allegedly using the sex trafficking victims as phony employees and patients when they billed the state for...
Ravelin says Elmy is Ilhan Omar's real last name. I thought so, but I wanted to fact check myself before I said it. And he changed it to Omar to get his family into the U.S. Yes, that is true. Yep.
Taxpayer Medicaid reimbursements, all with the help of this guy, Salman Elmy, who was just charged in Ramsey County with Medicaid fraud. Elmy owns a home health care company called Riva Health with the top defendant in the trafficking case, Frank Reeves, that is billed for $2.5 million in taxpayer money for mental health services that investigators say were not provided. Trafficking suspect Andrea Sampson owns an autism center, an assisted living center, and a housing stabilization services business that also billed for a total of more than $2 million. Elmy was a celebrated Minnesota entrepreneur, getting an award from the Minnesota Department of Human Services as an outstanding refugee. His website says Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, gave him $1 million investment for an app that he came up with. Back to the Medicaid fraud. The criminal complaint says the defendants gave one victim the job title mental health worker, another autism provider for kids, in order to scam the state. Lots more still to come on this case. I'm Lou Ragoose.
Lou Ragoose, bring in the sauce. You got to love it. Okay, I wonder if Kevin O'Leary has commented on this yet. Let me see. Michelle Tafoya, who is, I believe, the candidate for U.S. Senate. She's the candidate for U.S. Senate. She commented a couple of hours ago on it. Let's see. I would love it if Kevin O'Leary came out and made a comment. But I'm not seeing anything yet. Ooh, August 17th. Amy Klobuchar commenting on something completely unrelated. Okay. Nothing else. Hopefully Kevin O'Leary makes a comment. Anyways, let us continue with the subject of immigration. Thank you, Ravelin. Appreciate you on that fact check. All right. So H-1B activity among Indian IT firms appears to be dropping sharply. This is something that we would definitely expect. Now, according to Xfino data reported by Business Standard, 18 listed Indian IT services company, which plus Cognizant, who we spoke about yesterday, who is currently under investigation, saw new H-1B applications fall from record highs. In 2024, they applied for 36,453. In 2025, and remember it's 2026, that number fell to 8,160. That is a 78% decline. The administration's tougher approach appears to be changing incentives for these body shops. They've got higher costs, tighter security, greater scrutiny on the applicants, more pressure generally to hire locally. All of these things are forcing these companies to hire Americans. There is, of course, still a lot of work to do. We're still dealing with all of these different categories of visas, and some of them are created by Congress. Others were created through some of these federal agencies. So maybe we'll see even greater restrictions. I tend to believe we will. It seems like Stephen Miller and President Trump are slowly rolling these things out and basically getting them on the books. Now, here is a personal account from an H-1B worker who says his employer started the PERM green card process. PERM is the process that is required by the company to begin the process of getting these people permanent residency. However, as a result of starting that PERM process, the company was required to test the U.S. labor market, which means they had to check and see if there were any Americans that were available. Well, guess what? They looked and they found that there was a qualified American that they could hire to do the job, which means the PERM process stopped. This Indian worker's H-1B visa essentially became null and void. So now the Department of Labor is proposing to strengthen these recruitment requirements because the PERM rules basically haven't been updated since 2004, and only under this administration have they really actually been enforced. So employers now are having to seriously test the U.S. labor market before they even begin the process of sponsoring an H-1B recipient for a green card. Generally, before, they were never having to do that. So take a look at this. PERM process stopped. H-1B valid until January 2028. Well, it's not going to be valid if you don't have a job. My PERM process was stopped during the recruitment stage because my employer found a qualified U.S. applicant, so they will not be proceeding with the H-1B filing. Pretty frustrating after spending this much time going through the PWD and recruitment process. Has anyone here gone through the same situation? What did your employer do next? Restart the PERM later, or did you end up moving to another employer? I would actually appreciate hearing experiences. And you can see the actual rule as it is written here on the Department of Labor's website. The title is Modernizing the Labor Market Test and Improving Protections for U.S. Workers in the PERM Immigrant Visa Program. So this will mean undoubtedly more American citizens will receive jobs and less immigrants will receive jobs. Thank you to Family Man for gifting those 5 subscriptions to those 5 lucky viewers over there on Rumble. Appreciate it. Now, the U.S. Customs and Immigration Services has also issued updated rules on their public charge guidance. What does that mean? Beginning on September 18th, if you are an alien and you are applying for adjustment status of the reason for you being here, you must prove self-sufficiency so that you can show that if you gain permanent status, that you're not going to be a drain on taxpayer-funded benefits. This is bringing accountability to our immigration system. We've already heard previously that they were moving to change the rules to ensure that people that come here to the United States must prove that they are self-sufficient. They have a job, they have money. They're not going to come here and get on benefits. They're not going to get food stamps. They're not going to get the Section 8 housing. Very, very good stuff. I love to see it. All right. Now we're going to transition to some stories about judges. Obama-appointed judge has just blocked the FBI and Kash Patel from moving their headquarters to the Reagan building instead of building a new one. I can't believe that this is the case. The federal government and the FBI want to save the American people money by moving into a building that we already own that is perfectly suitable for the needs of the FBI. But an Obama-appointed federal judge has now blocked them and Kash Patel from moving the headquarters into the building that we already own. This would save the American taxpayer billions of dollars. Guess what? It is U.S. District Judge Theodore Chong. He sided Monday with the Democrat-controlled state of Maryland and Prince George's County. Those jurisdictions have been the leading location for a brand new multi-billion-dollar FBI campus in Greenbelt until Kash Patel and the GSA decided last year they were going to keep the headquarters inside the District of Columbia and do it at a fraction of the cost. Chong vacated the July 2025 selection of the Reagan building, blocked any renovations or relocation there, and erased the programming of $555 million of funds. He declared the decisions not in accordance with law and beyond the agency's statutory authority. You've got to be kidding me. How is this judge not acting outside of his own statutory authority? So the ruling effectively restores the path to the Biden-era Greenbelt site, even though Congress has not fully funded this massive new construction project. Now, the ruling itself does not explicitly order the FBI to begin building in the Greenbelt. However, it does destroy Kash Patel's Reagan building plan unless the administration wins on appeal or persuades Congress to change the law. So the FBI is obviously fighting back. You have a spokesperson who has accused the court of choosing to impermissibly intervene for political reasons, and he said the FBI is going to continue seeking the best available option for law enforcement. Now, back in July of 2025, Patel and the GSA announced that the Reagan building was now selected after nearly 2 decades of bureaucratic wrangling over a replacement for the deteriorating J. Edgar Hoover building. The Reagan complex is an existing federally owned property. It's located just a few blocks from the current headquarters, and administration officials argued that repurposing it would avoid the billions of dollars in new construction costs and more than $300 million in deferred maintenance that is currently due on the Hoover building. But Democrats in Maryland had thousands of jobs and an enormous economic windfall that was riding on this Greenbelt mega project, and they immediately ran to the federal courts to file suit. Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown celebrated Chong's decision, claiming it cleared the path for the headquarters to return to the Greenbelt. That is getting the cart before the horse, what they call it. Congress made a promise, Brown said. The Trump administration tried to block it. And of course, that promise would leave taxpayers responsible for the proposed headquarters that Patel said would cost nearly $5 billion, and it wouldn't even be finished until 2035. So this is obviously not going to stand. The FBI has also responded on their rapid response account. They said this is not the first time courts have tried to undermine the administration in its goal to make government more cost-effective for the taxpayers. The court has chosen to impermissibly intervene for political reasons, and this FBI is mission-focused, and they will continue the best course of action to meet the needs of law enforcement. Sycophants now seek to undermine the work of this FBI, which has led to the largest reduction in crime in American history under President Trump, and this will not deter us. Thank you to G. Fontes for also gifting a subscription to a keen-eyed viewer over there on Rumble. All right, we are here at the main event. The final unsanctioned decision by Judge Brian Murphy has just fallen. He, earlier today, caved to the previous order by the U.S. Supreme Court and lifted his block on the termination of temporary protected status for Ethiopians. They were the last group that we were waiting to have TPS ended for. Now, TPS for Ethiopians began in 2022 under the Biden regime, when they allowed 5,000 or more Ethiopians to enter the U.S. and live here under these special protections. Their TPS status was extended in April of 2024, and it expired on February 13th of 2026. When President Trump took office in January of 25, he immediately revoked all of the TPS statuses and ordered DHS to ensure that these designations were limited. Judge Murphy previously said Trump violated the process by revoking the protections, but earlier this year, he then issued a temporary restraining order and blocked the Trump administration from ending this protection. In June, as we have already reported, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled the Trump administration is allowed to end TPS status for hundreds of thousands of Haitians and Syrians, and by proxy, everybody else. It was a 6-3 vote, and they said temporary protected status is exactly what its name suggests, temporary. So last month, Judge Murphy indefinitely extended his block on temporary protected status, and the DHS said Murphy had engaged in mutiny against the Supreme Court. He had. Last Friday, Judge Allison Burroughs, the Obama appointee, was forced to lift her block on the termination of TPS for Somalis, and it was only a matter of time before Judge Brian Murphy came to the same decision. He had already been overruled by the Supreme Court, and I'm sure that it was very painful for him, but I hope that he lives with that decision every night for the rest of his life and cries himself to sleep like a little bitch. All right, now, also, a magistrate judge has denied Judge Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, her request, a second attempt, to lock up that crazy homeless woman who defaced the World War II memorial. Now, a magistrate judge is not the same as a federal judge. They're basically a person. Anybody can become a magistrate judge. But this magistrate judge is Matthew Sharbaugh. And this is the second time that Pirro had attempted to lock this woman up. He said the motion that Pirro's office filed failed to identify any new information in the second attempt. So he has denied her second bid to lock up Melissa Ferris on charges of vandalism. It's the same magistrate judge who yesterday released Melissa Ferris, who has been accused of deliberately defacing that World War II memorial, and he allowed her to leave custody on nothing more than a personal recognizance bond. Ferris is 41 of Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and she walked free, despite the fact that the Justice Department urgently requested that she be locked up because they believe she's a flight risk. So Sharbaugh rejected prosecutors' arguments, cut this woman loose with conditions that include staying out of Washington except for court appearances, staying away from the memorial she is accused of desecrating, surrendering her passport, and reporting to pretrial supervision. She's back in court on September 3rd. We all know the story. On August 13th, she defaced that memorial in a disgusting act. She live streamed her crime. She dared the police to come and arrest her. And then she turned herself in with another teary live stream. She's been charged with 2 felony counts of depredation against property of the United States and destruction of veterans' memorials. And those offenses carry penalties of up to 10 years in prison. So we'll see how that one plays out. We also have some good news. Apparently, there was a troon who had attempted to assassinate Scott Bessent. But that same troon, Ryan Michael Riley English, who is a transgender defendant, has been convicted of those crimes attempted with the attempted assassination of Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He is sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. Now, Jeanine Pirro said following this guilty plea, our system of justice depends on public officials being able to carry out their duties free from intimidation and fear. This defendant's threats crossed a clear legal line, and today's guilty plea reflects our commitment to protecting those who serve. Anyone who threatens violence against government officials will be identified, charged, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Now, in January of 2025, English was arrested at the U.S. Capitol after allegedly bringing 2 Molotov cocktails, multiple weapons, and having a stated intent to kill Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson and newly confirmed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Federal prosecutors revealed that English voluntarily turned himself in to Capitol Police, confessed to carrying the Molotov cocktails, and was kitted with several knives. And according to the criminal affidavit that was filed by Special Agent Peter Compapino of the U.S. Capitol Police, English approached an officer near the south door of the Capitol building. During that encounter, English said, "I'd like to turn myself in," and admitted to the dangerous devices and revealed that his primary target was Bessent. English also admitted to law enforcement that he intended to use the Molotov cocktails that were filled with alcohol and fitted with cloth soaked in hand sanitizer as weapons to start fires and possibly stab his intended targets. Now, the defendant is now a convicted felon and headed to prison where he belongs. And let's see if they have a photograph for us. Well, let's hear from Judge Jeanine.
What happens when an individual decides that he wants to assassinate a cabinet member nominee? Well, you can just ask Michael English. He pled guilty today to crimes related to the attempted assassination of a cabinet member because he admitted that he wanted to kill Scott Bessent. He had 2 Molotov cocktails and a knife, but ultimately turned himself in because he figured he'd probably get killed himself in the process. So Michael English will be spending a significant amount of time behind bars. So if anyone even thinks about doing that, be advised, we're going to find you, prosecute you, and convict you.
The crazy part is he hadn't even done anything yet. He went to D.C. He could have just turned around and gone home to Massachusetts, but obviously there is a significant level of mental illness present in this person's head. Yeah, really good that they were able to get him and to convict him. All right. Now, also, shockingly, a judge has issued an arrest warrant for perennial Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein. I guess Jill Stein didn't show up to court after she assaulted a police officer in 2024. Now, this arrest warrant was issued on Monday, and she and her attorney failed to appear for that scheduled court hearing. An order was filed by St. Louis Judge Karma Johnson, and it stated that neither Stein nor her lawyer appeared for their scheduled appearance. Now, Stein has been the Green Party's recurring presidential candidate in the last several elections. She is charged with first-degree trespassing and fourth-degree assault. Both of the charges are misdemeanors, and they arise from an April 27th, 2024 anti-Israel protest at Washington University in St. Louis. I don't know why she didn't show up, but court documents say the demonstration began in Forest Park before moving into the university's Danforth campus. Protesters allegedly entered the area around Olin Library. They erected tents and they refused repeated orders to leave. Rather than disperse, protesters allegedly locked arms and chanted, "Hold the line," as officers moved in. And then authorities say the confrontation involving Stein turned physical. According to the probable cause allegations, Stein grabbed a bicycle being used by one officer. A second officer was struck in the forearm by the bicycle, and Stein allegedly kicked him several times in his leg near his groin. The officer was subsequently diagnosed with a strained forearm, a leg contusion, and a groin injury. These are allegations, as Stein has not yet been convicted. There were a number of people who were also involved in this same incident. I'm not quite sure why Jill Stein hasn't just taken care of this, but now they are going to find her and they're going to arrest her. All right, gang, that's going to be it for today. We're going to close it down right there. Let me say one final thank you to Sean Joe over on on Pilled. Thank you for the cookie. I sincerely appreciate it. And that is it. I've got no more thank yous. Maybe I should just check on Cash App just to be certain. And thank you to anybody who has donated through the website. I'd like to remind you, if you're signed up as a recurring member with ongoing donations on the website, if you need to alter, cancel, or change those donations, there is information that you received in the first email thanking you for that donation. You can email, you can call, or you can get a hold of me through the stream. I've got my emails and everything in the description of the video. You can also go to my website, redpill78news.com. There will be a contact box. You can get a hold of me through there, and I will be happy to go ahead and help you out. So thank you for being here, and I'm going to go out and get some dinner with my wife, and then I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live. If you want to support the show, you can also check out the sponsors of the program, which you can find in the description below this video. Hang on, let me get this pulled up and fix the screen here, so then I can show you exactly what I am talking about. All right, here we go. We've got redpillnews.petclub247.com, where you can get all of their immune support supplements for both people and pets. Also did an interview with the people from Pet Club 24/7. You can find that on my channel. Also, my friends over at tamaracgarden.com. Use the code RP78 and you will get 10% off your order. All of these are natural products made by a patriotic American family. And all of these products are pretty amazing. Definitely check them out. Also, my friends over at onenessdrops.com also use the code RP78 to get 15% off their chlorine dioxide water purification kits or any of their other products, which include mullein extract, soursop extract, DMSO, and much, much more. And of course, my friends over at mypillow.com, use code RP78 to save up to 80% off Mike Lindell's amazing American-made products. My friend Jordan over at consciousstrength.net, use the code RP78 to save 10% on his website. This is where I get my methylene blue. They're now offering creatine, which I also take from them, and they have collagen, electrolyte, vitamin C. They have a parasite cleanse as well. My friends over at rncstore.com, use the code RP78 to save 15% off their B17 apricot seed products, which are good for many different things. I can't say because we're on YouTube. My friends over at C60evo.com, use the code RedPill78 to save $15 off your first order. And my good friend Jessica over at goallgood.com, use code RP78 and save 10% as well. All of these are beef tallow products made by Jessica, locally sourced, American-made products. If you support any of these sponsors, you will be supporting my efforts to bring you real news every day. The links to all of them are in the description of this video. Good luck, God bless, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.